Good. Good win last night. Excited. It's there's 10 of these things. I mean, in the SEC weekends, and I think what I try to do and try to impart on the players is look at this game or these games and not get too far ahead of yourself. You know, excited for what should be a great opponent, great venue, obviously two great programs, and you think about the great coaches, great players at both Texas and LSU. It obviously creates a lot of excitement, and can't wait, honestly.
Yes, sorry. Just having Ethan Frey healthy this year and just him consistently putting up the at-bats that he has, what has that done to unlock your offense?
Well, it helps a lot. He has a lot of ability, always had a lot of ability. Coming into that team in 23, that was going to be really hard to crack into as a freshman. But he did a good job, hanging with those guys, in the fall and early season. And then last year, I really felt like he was about to break out, right before the injury. And credit to him, he battled through it with a lot of physical toughness. And, toughness would be the word that I would use to describe Ethan, whether that's mental or physical, because it's a guy that hasn't really been handed anything. And, yet what he does is just he always shows up here with a ton of maturity. I love coaching him. He's a terrific person. Happy to see his success and, just for him, but it really, really lifts our team.
Coach, you guys have gone on the road already, obviously, but not played in a true road environment with a hostile crowd and stuff. So what gives you confidence the guys are prepared for that?
Yeah, I don't think I have any reason not to be confident in it from the standpoint of, we lay out what to expect. We lay out how to prepare. They put the effort in preparing correctly. And then, just how you view things is what they are. It's just great. It's you can use that energy to our advantage, to focus more for, 3-4 hour period. And that's what I would assume that they'll do. And, it's almost like as the competition rises or whatever you want to call it, I feel like it's a group of guys that, do the same. And I'm not talking about their play. I'm just talking about how they focus, their attention to detail. All those things probably rise a little bit too.
Saturday will be important. What do you want to see from Anthony differently?
Just be himself, yeah. I mean, again, I have a different view of things. I don't need any of those guys to go 9 innings or even 7 innings and 2 hits and no base runners. Is a lot easier on the heart rate, when they do that. But I just need them to execute their job. And, like I said, he was 1 pitch away from doing exactly what I had him pegged to do last week. So I just maybe a little sharper, with command and, pitchability and all those types of things. But I have zero issues with what he's done. He's given us a chance to win every game that he's pitched, and that's what his job is. And so knowing, kind of like we were talking about with Ethan, the character piece of Anthony, I'm sure he'll pitch great this weekend.
Is it important, though, for Anthony and Chase to go at least a little bit deeper in games just so you're not relying on your bullpen a little bit too much, just to keep those guys fresh as you go further down the season?
Again, I don't – again, it's this series, this weekend. Point well taken. However, that's where being deep helps you. That's where having a good offense helps you. Nobody had to pitch last night other than the 3 guys that we used. And so none of them have had 4 days off since we started the season, meaning the relievers, because of how condensed the schedule's been and some of the games that we've played in. So I think they'll be really fresh this weekend. And the more that we can get the relievers rest, but sometimes that's not having to use them on Tuesday. Or one of the two goes deeper in the game. Sure, that can definitely help you. But do I think it's a necessity to win a game that they pitch in? I don't at all. So, it's something that we'll monitor. And, I looked, very intently at last night's game going into the game of what was the best thing to do, obviously to win the game at hand, but for what you're talking about. But there's more than one way to kind of work through that. My first year in 22, we didn't have a choice, whether it was Tuesday night, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Cooper, Gervais, and Reiselman were throwing 3 games a week. And, they did a pretty good job, You know, and I mean, you'd have to ask them if they were tired by the end or whatnot. You know, so, but I also think we talk about this preparing them for pro baseball. You can't be a reliever in pro baseball unless you're ready, available, and successful 3 or 4 times a week. So there's a lot of layers to it, but I think the offense can help that. I think any of the time the starter goes deep, I think not having to use them on Tuesday, you know, it won't be perfect every week. And it's just, again, I look at last weekend and look around the league, and we actually, relative to the league, we pitched pretty well. So we'll see. But I expect them both to continue to get better. You mentioned Anthony and Chase, right? Yeah, like I expect Chase to continue to get better, and much in the same light. Like, I wasn't down on his outing at all. I felt like he responded well to a little bit of difficulty, and he almost got there. Had he gotten the leadoff guy out, was the last hitter, I would have let him go back out for the 5th. So they were both really close to going a little bit deeper. I made a decision based on what I thought was best to win those games, and really wasn't even in their control, because those types of guys throughout the league got left in a little bit longer, and I just feel like we have the options to do it a little differently.
I was practice this afternoon, and are the players excited about the trip?
Yeah, I think practice, you know, we've adjusted some things that we're doing this year a little bit differently than we've done in the past. We had a good, you know, shorter workout with what I'll call the guys that have played the most, you know, to allow them to get a really good strength and conditioning session in, really good recovery session in, and then be really specific with the baseball stuff. We'll get a good practice in tomorrow night, you know, when we go over there. But, you know, managing those guys' legs, bodies, minds, so that they're ready to go at competition, really important. And when you have skilled players, you can do that. And I think this is a very skilled team. So, and then we got 5 guys on the mound that needed to pitch today. And then, you know, the guys that need at-bats all got a couple at-bats. It was a simulated game. We didn't scrimmage today because we adjusted the schedule a little bit with Miss Sandy Burtman's funeral. But we got some good work in today.
Just you've gone head-to-head with Coach Schlossnagle the last couple of years. Any common themes that you notice in his teams and kind of what to expect this weekend with the Texans?
Yeah, for sure. You know, it was odd. Like, we hadn't even played each other before I came to LSU, and then now I feel like we play all the time. You know, they are off to a great start. And I think when you look at it, they've done a really good job on the mound. You know, the pitcher on Friday is off to a really good start, has terrific stuff. You know, it's kind of, you know, elevated that stuff to another level. I believe the Saturday guy is coming back off an injury, maybe missed last year. I might have that a little bit wrong, but he's pitched well. And then, you know, they've done a good job, you know, utilizing the rest of the pieces on their pitching. And it looks like, and I'm going to obviously do a lot more digging into it, they know who they are and what they do to execute well. I always think that's really key in good pitching staffs, is they know who they are and they can take their 2 or 3 things that they do and they can do it. And they're very true to that. Offensively, you know, good plate discipline, kind of a carrying tool, if you will. And it's an old lineup. Like, we played this team last year. Like, when I say we played this team, it's the same, a lot of the same lineup. When you look at Bellew, really good player. I don't even think he was maybe like known as like the guy when we were in Houston last year, but like in that game, I was like, that's their best hitter. And then he ended up being the Big 12 Player of the Year. Jalen Flores coming back, good player. Galvan as the catcher. So you got like a Gasparino in center field. So the key spots, it's all the same guys. The key hitter is back. They've added, you know, a couple good players as well. Schussler is another guy that was in the lineup last year. Ethan Mendoza looks like he's playing good. Texas kid that had originally gone out to Arizona State. So there's a lot of experience on that team. So plate discipline usually follows that. Knowing how to play usually follows that. You know, they've played a good schedule, so it'll be great, man. There's good players on both sides they're playing good right now. It's 2 teams that are playing good right now.
Your offense seems to be clicking on all cylinders as of late. Do they have any qualities as far as depth or just efficiency that maybe remind you of the 23 team or other really good offensive teams you've had?
Yeah, I would say that would be the best, I will say, offensive teams. I like to think all of them were good, but of the best ones, yeah, I think just there's a relentlessness of quality at bats. Like there's no break in that order, kind of regardless of who we play. You know, I think it's kind of 13 guys probably at the forefront of that now. That's pretty clear, and all of them can do whatever we need them to do. I think what reminds me of them is their ability to adjust quickly. Like if we're off, we can get back on track. Like somebody asked me a question the other night. It was the game we won 7-6. We didn't score in the 6th, 7th, or 8th, and somebody made a comment about what happened to the offense at the end. I was like, wow, that means these guys have set the bar really high. If you don't score over a 3-inning period, I think, much I was talking about their team, I think plate discipline. I think the 2-strike hitting thing has been exceptional. I think the ability to hit with runners on base has been exceptional. The ability to score in multiple ways, way more of, my style or brand of baseball, and I think they have an edge to them that you need to be consistent with the difficulty of the schedule that we play. And as long as they continue that as we go forward, I think we'll continue to see good results. Might not be 11-1 or double-digit runs every game, but a way to win. And then you mix that with utilizing the pitching in the right way. There's a formula for them to be successful.
With the bullpen and really with the staff as a whole last weekend, with some of the walks, how do you sort of chalk that up, especially since the beginning of the year you guys were really filling up the strike zone?
Well, I mean, I honestly don't think it's like maybe fair to compare. Like the first weekend we didn't walk anybody or something for like 3 games. Just different opponent. An SEC opponent versus a cold weather team in non-conference. Probably not a fair comparison. But I think really we look at everything in terms of strikes. I mean, there's a premium on strike 1, there's a premium on 2 out of the first 3, and there's a premium on executing the strike to finish the hitter, whether that's strikeout or weak contact. I thought Cade did a great job. I thought we asked a lot out of DJ last weekend. He did a good job. I think, I learned a lot as far as, what's the tipping point for certain guys. And I felt like we got guys in at the right time. Maybe we left a guy in, maybe one hitter too long. But that's good information for going forward. And they did a good job of keeping it small all weekend. The 3-run homer, that was a little bit of a thunderbolt because I had in my mind, that was the point in the game. Just get us through that guy, and then we would have been in a great spot. He would have finished 4 innings, and then we could have made the decision with the lead, with a 2-run lead at that time. Then we could have made the decision of, hey, man, we're going to let him go back out for the 5th, and maybe he rolls through the 5th because one thing with Anthony is he kind of gets better as he gets going. So I just look at it a little bit differently than everybody else, and we've had the luxury to be able to do that way this far because we've been scoring runs. You face a good pitching staff, runs are a little bit more at a premium, then that obviously comes into play much more.
It seemed like Missouri got into a lot. You guys got ahead of 1 and 2, and then they would just sort of work the count to a walk or a base hit later in the count. Was that just not quite executing the final pitch more than?
I think it depends. I think it was again, it was the leadoff guy. The last hit Chase gave up, he just missed the spot and he hit it. So I think that's just like executing the pitch a little bit better, and then we'd probably get a fly out or a ground out instead of a base hit to left field and an RBI, and that's part of it. I think some of it is you're going to give up some hits in league. You can't give up the combination of hits with the free bases. If you only give up free bases and no hits, they're not going to score. If you give up hits and don't give up free bases, it's hard to score. So I thought we did a good job managing not being perfect and minimizing the runs. And that's going to be how some of the games against the best teams go because guys have good 2-strike approaches or have good plate discipline. And again, like, there's a learning curve to this thing. Like, they're talented, so they make you forget. But Cade Anderson is the only guy that had thrown a pitch in the SEC prior to last weekend on this pitching staff.
Your guys' win-loss record, I think, is tied for the best in program history. Does that do anything for you guys as a team, or is it something not really focused on, just kind of game-by-game thing?
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool. There's not a lot of firsts you can get around here with Coach Burtman. So, I think for me, all I would want it to do is, obviously we're playing because we want to win, but like for me, I would want it to validate to the players the importance of how we're preparing, how competitive they are in the games, the energy that they're bringing, and reinforce them to do that. When you do something well and you get positive results, at least for me, it's like, yeah, let's go back to that. That's what I would hope that it would do. I mean, and as far as all the historical point, 22 games into the season, it's not really a time for big reflection.
Was Zach Cowan?
Thanks for letting me know, though.
But with Zach Cowan, he obviously throws a ton of strikes, but
Yeah.
what has made him so deceptive to hitters, I guess, here?
The makeup is great. He believes in himself. He pitches with conviction, throws strikes. He's got the internal part of this thing, and so happy he's here. That goes for a lot of guys on this team. But when I saw Wood in the portal, like, I couldn't even believe it, and I didn't even do our analytical deal. I was just like, hey man, somebody give me this dude's phone number like now, and I'm really glad he's here.
There was a report last year that Texas was interested in targeting you for their opening job. Was there ever even a phone call from them?
And I'm learning a lot of things for the first time in this media session.
Are the plane rides to these conference series, I know you haven't done one yet, but maybe on your way there, maybe you're a little more comfortable this time because the framework is there, at least for pitching all weekend from a starting standpoint, whereas last year, Sunday, you didn't really know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, like, when you, and I mean this in a positive for this year, it would say yes. And, like, once you're into it, whether it's injuries, recruiting, development, like, you have what you have, like, and I mean that in a real positive way. So I'm excited for this team every time we take the field. You're not going to win every game that you play in baseball, but I show up thinking there's no reason we can't win this game today. And I think the team feels that way and believes that way and plays that way as well. And a lot of that is we have great pitching. It's like, hey, you guys are going to talk to Connor. It's like, okay, you go taking out Chase Shores, who's, he's going to be great. He is doing great. And you're bringing in Connor Ware. Like, that's awesome. And then after that, you're going to Maverick Rizzi. And a day game in the SEC, I mean, we kind of gave him the last run. Like, if we would have held the guy on, they 4 on Sunday with this offense, like, I'll take it all day, every day. When I get to go to those pitchers and then finish the game with Zach Cowan, like, I think that lines up good for us.
Between the jumping in the pool and the thumbs up stuff, like, do you feel like this team is, I guess, a little more lighthearted? I don't want to say goofy, but a little more lighthearted than you've had in the past? Has that been noticeable to you, at least?
No, I think we've always had guys that like doing what they like to do, but it should be fun. I mean, like, it's, there's a lot of discipline and structure to preparation. There's a lot of discipline and structure to how they train. There's a lot of discipline and structure to how they take care of themselves, how they eat. But in the middle of it, it's like, hey, man, I want them thinking like they're playing wiffle ball in the backyard, and they have to win to stay on the field, or, 3-on-3, you got to win to stay on the court, man. Or ping pong is the analogy we use. We want to prepare like Navy SEALs, but play baseball like we're playing ping pong in the players' lounge. And that's what I see out of them.
Gilmore, you guys were kind of in this spot last year. You got the 20 wins quickly. Conference play started and things went south a little bit. So no matter what happens this weekend, how do you keep the train on the tracks?
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm just like so beyond like what that was that I don't even really think about that, because that doesn't have any relevance to what's happening now. And I don't mean that like disrespectfully at all. Best start in program history, awesome. I told this team, like, let's go to Wrigley Field. We're playing the Cubs. I expect to win. Like I believe in them that much in terms of not just having good players. You know, see if the Cubs will invite us, Bill. So, you know, how they prepare, how they train, attention to detail, ability to respond. Like that would be one I would tell you that gives me a lot of confidence. Is like, doesn't have to go perfect. I mean, again, like Saturday night, you know, we get a lead, we're playing good. You know, I don't even remember how they kind of crawled back to 7-6, to be honest with you, because I'm kind of onto this thing. You know, the bases are loaded, and you got a 18-year-old out there, and it's like, hey, no problem. You know, not only is he 99 miles an hour with 3+ pitches, but he's got the head and the heart to handle it. And so what? If they tie it, you know, Danny's going to come up and hit a double, and then Milam's going to hit a single to left field, and we're going to have a walk-off. Like, I mean, like that's kind of how I'm rolling through those things.
You guys, I think you mentioned the other day you guys have used the new football facility a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
Has that actually been helpful for you guys, and what ways has that helped?
Yeah, I think, you know, we have really good players. We have some players that we are asking a lot out of from a physical demand standpoint, whether that's Luis to catch, Steven to play shortstop, you know, Danny to play in the middle of the field, you know, run the bases hard, play with his hair on fire, take quality at bats. Chris Stanfield's diving everywhere, you know, Curiel. So, and again, they're very skilled in baseball, and we have a really good foundation. So keeping their bodies in order and at their best, so their minds are fresh too, so that they can execute that skill in the game, is a real priority. So I don't even know how to answer that. That would probably be a better question for them in terms of the specifics. We're just making the recovery mentally and physically a real priority. So you stay, you know, consistent in the approach, and you know, we're going to get tested, you know, and the good news is we have good players that you know, knock on wood at this point, have stayed pretty healthy, and if they stay right mentally, then it allows you to be consistent, and maybe that answers your question. I just have a lot of faith in that. So all right, thanks guys. See you over there.